Yeah, the Vance Whisperer. Let me call him. And as we're talking to him, we'll just play Donald Trump getting worshipped at the RNC.
Yo, man, what's up? It's been like a year.
Yes, it has been a year, and I keep coming to you saying, "Did you want to stream now?" And you come back and you say, "No, no, not this time. You know, I'm too busy saving these kittens out of trees or saving orphans out of
I'm
orphanages."
gonna be honest, my life's a bit in shambles right now. But how's it been for you?
My life's been okay, I think. Life's been life. I'm still kicking. I'm still filming. I'm interested in my work. And I mean, hey, as long as I'm fulfilled with my work, what more can you ask for?
You're still in Ukraine?
Yeah, I'm still in Ukraine. I'm gonna be in Ukraine for a little bit longer. Come back to the States for a tiny bit. Then I'm gonna come back to Ukraine for 2 more months. Then I'll be home for Christmas.
That sounds awesome, man. I still recall like 3 years ago or something. Was it Dan who was saying you shouldn't do it?
Yeah,
Then here
Dan.
you are,
Dan
and you're
was,
doing it.
and I don't think I've said this on stream yet, but I'm actually going on the Anything Else podcast with Destiny and Dan when I'm back in the
Oh,
States
cool.
for a little bit. So 3 years later, from shouldn't go do this to coming back for just like a week or two before heading straight back to the war zone. It's very surreal.
Yeah, I'd imagine. So you're talking about JD Vance, eh?
JD Vance, yeah, I'm not a fan of JD Vance. Everything about him seems fake. He seems like a fake person, like a fake American. I don't know about like
A fake
a
American.
fake American. I don't trust him. I don't like the cut of his jib, man. I don't like him.
Do you know like anything about him or?
Well, I don't trust him first because his shift from never Trumper to Trump devout loyal dog was very quick, very short, and very suspicious. To go from somebody saying that Trump is cultural heroin, right? And his mother was thrown in addiction in a way that very few people like except me can relate to, right? And so for him to use that type of terminology in reference to Trump, call him America's Hitler, call him everything you could imagine, and then shift to Trump loyalists in such a short term makes me incredibly suspicious of exactly his motives. It's one thing to see somebody like slowly transform over time, but that quick of a change makes me suspicious of him. Its foreign policy is also terrible. I don't think he's very knowledgeable on it, and I think his foreign policy is just all around awful. He's just straight up in favor of banning abortion, and I've seen him doing his best to purge all reference of his want to ban abortion off the internet in the last 24 hours. Now that he's getting on the Trump ticket, I'm not a big Vance fan. I'm not a big Vance fan. Not to mention, he said he'd overthrow the electoral college for Trump, which
Yeah,
is
that is a huge one. Yeah, like you can have, I think you can have reasonable disagreements on abortion because there's something underlying there whether or not you believe the fetus is actually alive or like counts as a person, right? So I understand that, but the overthrowing democracy thing is pretty much beyond the pale for
well,
me
maybe
personally.
as a Democrat in this moment after the overturning of Roe versus Wade, when we talk about Trump's VP, we're talking about somebody who could legitimately be president. Not only because we just saw Trump almost get shot in the dome, right? But also because
Yep.
Trump is 77, 78 years old now. I think he's 78 now. And by the time he's leaving office, he will be older than Joe Biden is currently. He'll be like 83 or something if he wins this election, which means that it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that Trump eats one too many burgers and then just like falls over and dies because everybody has an end date. And if JD Vance becomes president, like all these things about him supporting a federal ban on abortion or these like niche like internet nonsense like stuff that he's said before, or any just all of the negative parts of Vance, which would have been a minor thing because he's vice president, are immediately going to get amplified. And so while maybe if like Trump was 40, I'd be talking about this a little less. Since Trump's a little up there in the age, I'm even more particularly nervous about it. Not to mention, like, Vance is not somebody that's going to reel Trump in.
No, not really. I don't think so. Um, in terms of him, the flip flopping. I mean, I basically feel the same way that you do, but I'm gonna steel man some commenters when I said the same thing that you did because they gave me a pushback on that, and the pushback was, it's been 8 years since 2016. In 2016, he said he was Hitler or something. It was something along those lines. I don't remember the exact comment. But basically, his anti-Trump comments were 8 years ago, and in 2021, 3 years ago, he said he had 3 children and he had grown up a lot and things had changed. And you can change a lot in 5 years.
I mean, you can change a lot in 5 years, but that was when he was running for office. That's after he had secured Trump's endorsement. That's after he had, already started warming up to Trump. If it was, 8 years later and he started to really change his mind and he said, okay, I now am on the Trump train. It's just, for me, it's the speed. Because it wasn't like, oh, after 5 years, then he changed his mind. It's after 2 years he changed his mind. And then after 3 years of like buddying up to Trump, then he was able to get his endorsement so he can then become the senator from Ohio at a very young age and like throw himself from venture capital to the top rings of political power in the country. To me, it seeps of opportunism. It like if maybe JD Vance had done this over a longer period of time, maybe I feel differently. If I was able to find like deeper reasonings behind the sea change, if I was able to find some notes or like some hints of that guy that he was before, and some hints and some notes of the values he had before in his justification for why he supports Trump now, then maybe I'd be more willing to believe him. But I mean, I can't say for sure, obviously, because I can't read Vance's mind. But my bullshit detector's like going off like crazy.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Um, from what I know, from what I've noticed, is that from 2016 to 2020, a lot of people who were like center right and kind of iffy on Trump, but was like, we'll give him a chance. By 2020, they had become like full on Trump supporters, and then during COVID lockdowns, everyone fucking lost their minds in all directions, and the world went insane. So he could have simply just followed the same path as a lot of right-leaning people I know who just kind of grew to like Trump. And by the way, that's not a defense of him. I don't like Vance or his policies. Right? I'm just kind of explaining what I think happened.
I mean, it could be like this could be a genuine transformation on behalf of him. I'm not completely disregarding the idea that there could be no genuine element to this. It's just I I have changed over the last 8 years and some of the things I believe, but it has not been to the point where like everything that I believe have fundamentally turned on its head. You cannot go from this man is Hitler to this is the greatest president of our generation in 2 years unless you believe some crazy things about Hitler. It's just very hard for me to believe that he transformed that quickly. But even if he did, then the other end of the spectrum is that he understood the dangers that Trump posed early on. He was with the early whistleblowers, and then he decided to jump ship and abandon those concerns, look past the red flags that he saw, which others in his party did not see, and just keep on moving. Which I don't know if that's better or worse, honestly.
Well, maybe he still thinks he's Hitler. He just likes Hitler now.
That's what I was. I didn't want to say like if you're saying he's like Hitler, and within 2 years they're like he should be president. Like I don't know. Maybe you have to have some strange beliefs about Hitler. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So how much internet retarded nonsense you want to get into? Because we could go down. I've done it with Adam and Sitch, where we've like looked over Moldbug's philosophies, and we've gone for like 16 hours and barely gotten into the depths of it.
Okay.
But I can speed run it for you if you want.
Could you speed run me this stuff? Because I'm gonna be honest. Internet philosopher does not sound like something that should take more than 30 minutes of my time.
Well, he actually wrote a 13-chapter book specifically meant to. It's targeted at progressives, so it's for a progressive audience, and it's meant to transform your average American progressive into what he calls a neo-reactionary. And that's his philosophy is the philosophy of neo-reaction. I mean, you're a lefty, so you know what a reactionary is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, he he calls it neo-reactionary because it's the new reaction. So it's not like the reactionaries of old, because before the old reactionaries wanted to return to monarchy. He's saying no, we're not going to return to monarchy. We're going to make a new techno monarchy. Okay, so Mencius Moldbug, real name is Curtis Yarvin. He worked in the tech industry in the 2000s, the dot-com boom. Um, he's he's probably one of the better computer programmers to come out of that time. He's also extremely intelligent, very well read on history and philosophy. He knows how to write, like beautiful writing, but he's also completely fucking insane. Like this is a guy who is completely nuts, and his experience in the tech world basically led him to believe that the ideal government is one that uses modern technology in the same way that, like, I mean, you I think you run a website, right? So you know about like
Yeah.
admin access and like system. Yeah. So he says that, like, the government should be structured the same way a computer program is, with like absolute lockouts
Mm-hmm.
and a very strict hierarchy of who can control the program.
Mm-hmm.
And his view of it is, well, we'll use modern technology. We're not gonna have a democracy. So no democracy for Moldbug. We're gonna have a government where it's structured like a corporation, where the CEO is a king, and the board of directors is like the nobility class, and your board of directors will vote on a CEO, and basically they represent the shareholders. So it is a corporate structure, but as a government, and that was his view. Um, it's By the way, it's completely fucking ridiculous. This is I'm not in favor of this nonsense. But
No, I'm listening.
when
I'm
I was
listening.
reading it,
I'm waiting for like the twist, where like
yeah,
it
yeah.
here's
Well,
where it's
well,
American and it isn't against everything we're supposedly supposed to believe in.
right. So his view of it is basically that democracy is
Burns
fundamentally
is an
incompatible
immoral, morally
with
corrupt,
the American
bankrupt
idea
man.
of liberty. And it's because democracy leads to instability. You have warring factions, which cannot actually provide an orderly state that can keep the peace. So you can't be free in a disorderly society. Um, he also thinks that he also does like the libertarian kind of mob rule of democracy critique, where if you're gay, for example, and the entire society votes that you can't have gay sex in private, how free really are you? Like he does that sort of critique, and that, I think that's because he started off as a libertarian. And a lot of people who are libertarian and then radicalize even more rightward, they kind of go down like a Moldbug tunnel, because he was one of the first ones to say, well, you cannot have a truly libertarian society if you don't have some sort of unity that underpins it, that keeps everyone together, so they all actually, enforce the NAP. If you know what that is, right?
Yes, the non-aggression principle.
Okay. Yeah. So you can't have that if there's not something that underpins the society and makes everyone want to actually, treat each other decently. So, and for him, he said like race can do it, or religion, ethnicity. Something has to keep people together though. And so he basically said, well, you know what we'll do? We'll just use modern technology to force people into compliance. One of his more ridiculous ideas was that in the Moldbug paradise, all guns would be smart guns, and they would be centrally controlled by the government. And so if there's ever a rebel faction, you just turn off their guns. He his solutions to everything are very high tech oriented. So he basically said we're going to build a techno monarchy, a
Yeah.
techno
What do
monarchy, a
you?
monarchy of the future.
So
Yeah.
the government controls everyone's guns.
Yes.
This is all around terrible. I don't want a government issued computer chip AR-15 that can watch me while I take a shit. I don't want that. This sounds terrible. How that the only way you can be free is if the government controls your guns? Really?
Yep. That's kind of, well. See, the reason, the common liberal critique to this is, listen, this isn't free because it's an authoritarian government. It's very much an authoritarian government. But his view is like, listen, when you're like using your iPhone, like iPhones kind of suck, right? Because they have like their own
General
proprietary
eye roll.
plugs,
Thanks for the
and
sub. I appreciate it. Sorry. Continue.
you have like you have your iPhone. It has like its own proprietary jack to charge it, and like its own file system, and it's like annoying, but like you do it because it's the iPhone, right? And basically, when it comes to domains where there is absolute power enforced from the top, people tend to just accept it and then reroute around it, and they just live with it, right? When there's an instability of power, then you have constant conflict. So his view is like, make a government that is so top down powerful that it is impossible to revolt against it, and people will live in peace with it.
The problem with all of this, though, is if that government gets out of whack or out of control, the amount of power they have is inordinate.
Yes. Now, his solution to that is basically that the government would also be the private property of the CEO and the board, and so they're incentivized to manage it because it allows them to get rich. This the same way that like a small business owner like you or I are incentivized to manage our channels properly so that we get rich.
Yeah, but if the CEO could get rich by just gouging and screwing everyone else, like many people, like for example, like when the Congo was Zaire, I mean, like that person was able to enrich himself immensely, not at the benefit of his own people, but at the benefit of himself by just selling off resource rights and etc. Like I could definitely see somebody like Donald Trump, for example. Trump's actually a perfect example, setting up a bunch of institutions to control government contracts or
You
reward
cut out
friends.
for me. Are you still
Oh,
there?
yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me again?
Sorry,
Like
sorry, Dylan. Yeah, you cut out. What's up?
I could 100%. I mean, like I don't know where I was at. Zaire. I don't
You
know if
said
you know.
I could hear Donald Trump.
Oh
You
yeah,
said
I
that.
could see Donald Trump awarding government contracts to his friends and buddies, giving them high value contracts, not for the benefit of the country, but to enrich himself, enrich his friends, uh, as CEO. I mean, CEOs have this problem all the time, where they prioritize themselves or their buddies over their company. Now, hopefully, you would say the company would fire that CEO, but when you've given the CEO that much power, like, how do you fire them?
Yeah, he seems to think that the board of directors will remove the CEO like they do in any other company, where like the CEO's gone too bad, they remove him. The thing is like the obvious critique here is that go- governments are not actually corporations. They function differently. They have different goals. You cannot structure them the same way. It's not going to work. Obviously, right?
Yeah,
And like I also think the critique
it's the same reason why I was
works in
never like
inverse
a
as
big
well.
fan of like, oh, he was a businessman so he can run the country well. Well, like the role of the president is not just to turn a profit.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also why, for example, like I'm not. I know you have some like a libertarian socialist in your audience. I'm not really for worker democracy for the same kind of critique. Is like the government and businesses are two different things. They can't really be managed the same way. They have to have different structures.
And they have
But
different
yeah, so
incentives. So I mean, you got to work towards
yes,
the
yes.
advantages of their incentives.
hmm So I know someone in your chat asked why are we talking about this because this is some insane stuff. I would recommend, by the way,
Yeah,
reading
but
that
but
13
to be
chapter
clear,
book
to be clear,
just to understand how stupid it is.
all of this
But
sounds
yeah,
fucking like really niche and dumb. This sounds like that. Like when I hear somebody talk about like Posadism, or someone's like, "Oh, I'm an anprem." Like this is it's like niche internet politics. None of this feels like it should have any impact on real American serious political discussion. Like what Trump, the CEO king? Is that what we're discussing now?
more like Vance. I don't. Trump doesn't believe in this. Trump, but like this is
Well,
Vance's
yeah,
thing.
but if
So
this was Vance's thing, Trump would be the CEO in this system. He's the head.
I mean, I guess yeah, but I think it's more likely that Vance would try to move American democracy more in this direction if he became the president.
Do you think he would
And since
actually want to move America in that direction?
somewhat, yeah, I think so. How I like because okay, so Moldbug, this is all online bullshit, but it's going to become offline and very real in just a minute. So Moldbug starts this group on the internet called the Dark Enlightenment. It was
Wait,
supposed to be
how do
just
you know
based.
it's gonna get all offline and people are gonna pay attention and catch this?
Oh well, I'll just tell you real quick. So Moldbug starts this group off online called the Dark Enlightenment, and then one of the major figures that comes out of it is Peter Thiel, who is actually pretty influential offline because he's like a venture capitalist and he has tons of money, and in fact he helped
Not
fund Vance, and
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of him, but I'm familiar. Yeah.
yeah. So basically, these guys all kind of ran in the same circle 20 years ago online, and they developed these theories. And this is the closest they've ever been to actually getting into real power, is through Vance.
And the thing that's crazy about Vance is Vance is 39, Trump's 77. Trump could legitimately die first day in office and make Vance president. Like like as much as I mean, it's more real with ever with the assassination, but I mean, he's an old dude, man. He's an old dude,
Yep.
and he has not lived a healthy life. He was a New York socialite with all that entails.
hmm hmm So I mean, the people in this group, in the Dark Enlightenment group, they do have some differences, but they do kind of generally believe in the same critiques of like liberal capitalist democracy. Um, some of them are actually like Marxists even, but like they're like right wing Marxists, which sounds kind of strange. But when you go on the internet, you get all types, right? Um, but yeah, the idea, the view basically is they're not like normal neocons who are war hawks, and they're not like libertarians, even though they're descended from them. They're not like libertarians who are like free market guys. They're not really interested in too much in profit, even though they rely on profit for the CEO. They basically want the the economy to be centrally managed by the state, but not for the benefit of the people in the state, though they might benefit sometimes, but primarily for the state's own benefit. And they're also they're very insular. They don't like any sort of like foreign
This
entanglements.
sounds
So
more like the state owning the country more than the country owning the state.
yeah,
That's seems like the worst interpretation of government I could possibly have imagined in my head. This is like if somebody was to paint like the worst depiction of what a bad government is their incentives are, their motives are, I would imagine it'd be something close to this. Like it's a state's goal is its own survival. It'll prioritize that over the needs of its citizens, its
Burns
people.
is
Like
immoral,
this is
morally corrupt.
this is the
bankrupt man.
aspiration.
yeah. It's like it's like almost like a feudal society, just with modern technology instead of being in the Middle Ages. It's almost like that.
God, but this
Um,
would make a good movie though. It'd make a good good blockbuster. Manic Shade, thanks for the primer.
But yeah, so because when you're dealing with most right wingers, even Donald Trump to an extent, they talk a lot about the free market and how we have to lower taxes and all these sorts of things. And I think leftists have very good, well, maybe not good, but at least well-known avenues of attack against those positions, because they're much more like, whether it's soc dems or socialists, they're much more about redistributing things. But
I think
these new
actually,
guys,
now that I
they don't
think
care anything
about
about
it,
that at all.
now that I think about it, this Trump tariff proposal, I mean, he's always been economically populist. But when I think about it, it is, I mean, I don't know, you know about Trump's tariff proposal?
Is it 10% on China?
10% on everything. Everything
Mm.
imported into the United States. That's absurd. That's unbelievably absurd. That's going to be a
Yeah, it's
10% consumer cost. Like, I don't even think he'll institute it. I think there'll be too much protest. He'll introduce some watered down version of it. But assuming like something like that would be introduced, that is something that quite literally would benefit the state at the expense of the people. You could make a national security argument if it was based in microchips or stuff that could build up the Chinese industries that could be weaponized against the United States or against with any like key competitor. For example, if we were investing in microchips in Russia, it makes sense that it would make sense you'd put tariffs or regulations on that. But on everything, you can't just make a national security argument here, which is where I think most tariffs should be based in. It should be based in this is a national security problem. This would just be asking the general public to take on 10% cost on top of all goods.
Yep. Because I mean, tariffs for the most part just end up being
You want to
taxes
combat
because the company
inflation?
raises
This is how you put inflation into hyperdrive.
I don't know if it would put inflation into hyperdrive, but it would cause many, many other problems, though. Like,
Would
it
it
wouldn't be a
not?
good policy. Well, no, because inflation. Okay, the inflation conversation is kind of a crazy one, and like, maybe we shouldn't go down that rabbit hole. I'm not sure if it would cause inflation, but it would be a very bad policy, though. I'm not in agreement with it at all. Hold on a second here. But yeah, see, the thing about Vance and just does he become president?
Okay,
If he
I just
becomes
googled this.
president.
Okay.
Okay, what's that?
I thought I was just mentally deluded, but I'm looking it up, and there are economists that say that tariffs can be inflationary. Okay, 1 second.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
What's the logic?
Oh God damn it! I already closed it. I'll Google it. You know what? We can Google the inflation. This was not the center of the conversation. This seems like a weird outcome.
Yeah.
Okay. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
fair enough.
Continue.
Yeah, so the idea that if Vance becomes president, he immediately institutes all this crazy shit. Probably not, because America does have its own institutions that are in place with people in them who still at least somewhat believe in American ideals. So, but it does at least tell you where he might want to try and tug things in the direction of, right?
Do you agree with me that Vance is like, and I believe this before the mold bug deep dive, right? Uh, that Vance is like one of the worst people Trump could have picked. I mean, the only one that could have been worse maybe would be the Rashwami, but there would have been no logic between a Rashwami pick. At least there's some logic with him being from Ohio, being from the Rust Belt, being much younger. So there's some areas that can like strengthen Trump's ticket on. But I think that he's more a VP pick, not for the campaign trail, but for his administration. A loyal, dogged supporter who's going to do whatever Trump says, not with a lot of experience, very hard for him to usurp him, not a gigantic national profile, and not a record of bucking Trump like Nikki Haley has, even though she would be much better for his campaign chances. I think this is the type of person that you pick if you want nobody holding you back and you want to go in there and cause a mess. It's an enabler, so to speak. It's an enabler pick.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, these Dark Enlightenment guys have also wanted to radically change the government as well. So if Trump is going to be a wrecking ball through American institutions, he's going to be just on board with that just from the start of it. He's all about that shit. Yeah, I guess it's. I think Trump wanted somebody who was not connected to the traditional GOP machine, which I'm sure they're shitting bricks right now, because those guys are still like old guard neocons who are business oriented, and you can have criticisms of them, but they're way better than these new guys coming in.
I would prefer Mitt Romney to Trump, absolutely.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I heard that
Man.
Trump also played out the VP race to the last second. Like he enjoys the drama, so he wanted it to. He decided on Vance way before, and I know I predicted it would be Vance. I think a week before they said it, and the reason why was his sons can't keep their mouths shut, and they kept like randomly tweeting out like stuff to make Vance look cool. Like, hey, here's randomly like 3 years after he released this ad during the Senate race that's long done. Here's introductions to JD Vance. I was like, oh god, they picked Vance. I immediately knew, and yeah, they did. But God, but even after they picked Vance, he just kept the suspense. He even had Marco Rubio and Doug Burnham come to the RNC just to be told that they hadn't been chosen.
I mean, that's at least kind of funny. I can laugh at that.
Yes, I can laugh at that, but I can imagine it also rubs people not great on the House, on the Republican RNC floor.
Yeah. So, man, it seems like you guys are kind of in for a rough 4 years. I don't think Biden's pulling this out, man. Like,
honestly, I don't know. Polls are a snapshot in time, and the polls are not good right now. But it also depends on like which poll says how bad it is. Because he's like, I think on average he's down like 3 or 4 points, so that's like right outside the margin of error. So he is down. Undoubtedly, he is down. But this is also like post worst debate performance I've ever seen out of Joe Biden, let alone, I mean, since the Obama and Mitt Romney debates. And backed following a failed assassination of his political opponent. While Joe Biden's also dealing with a lot of rumblings in the Democratic base, right? There's a lot of questions of whether he's even going to be the nominee. And so there's a question of in the next 4 months, can he make up 4 points? It depends on how they campaign, how well he can campaign, what they lean into, what they advertise, and how Trump does, what scandals come out against Trump. I don't think it's over. I think people are kind of tapping out way early. They're like Theodore Roosevelt, which everybody keeps comparing Trump to. He lost that election. He got shot. Like getting a shot is not necessary. It could be a political gift, even though, of course, it probably was terrifying for Trump at the moment. But it's not a sure sell. What's the word? It's not a certain victory.
Sell?
Yeah. It's not a certain victory.
I said this. Okay. So here, just be real clear. Oh my God, real clear, Jesus. Just to be real clear, I know that there's like a segment of your chat that doesn't like me because I'm not a lefty, which is fine. You don't have to like me personally or anything. And I'm sure you disagree with a few of my. I'm sure you disagree with a few of my takes, Dylan. I heard
you. Wait. Are you a Hitler?
Huh? Probably.
I don't like that.
No, I am. Okay, hold on. I am a liberal conservative, but that means nothing to Americans. And
Yeah,
conservative
obviously
in
that
the
means nothing
European
to us.
sense, yeah, and conservative in the European sense is very different from conservative in the American sense because I am not a Trump supporter whatsoever. I think the Republicans have gone off the fucking deep end.
Yeah.
Um,
Personally, I'm a libertarian monarchist.
oh, you're going the Aiden Paladin route?
Yeah, I'm going Aiden. Aiden Paladin convinced me in our last debate. I'm a libertarian monarchist.
Oh my god. Um, but yeah. So like there's like liberals who are devoted to liberal ideology, and they tend to be progressives, and then liberal conservatives. They're not devoted to liberalism as an ideology. They view liberalism as a tradition that is worth conserving. So that's what a liberal conservative is. But I mean, a lot of the policy prescriptions end up being similar. So it's not like we're enemies. It's just I have a different philosophical view of what liberalism should be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you also focus on things that I don't think are as important as you do. I think. I think a lot of
Yeah,
times,
probably.
like sometimes you'll say stuff and I'll be like, I guess I agree. I just don't give a fuck. A lot of it's like more minor social stuff.
Hmm.
It's like the like if there's the stuff when I look back on the content that I made, right? And I'm not saying this is shit on you. I'm not saying this is shit on Chud Logic. I'm much more like happy with like the breakdown of politics or like the war footage than I am with the breakdown of like the gay Blues Clues parade and whether or not if that was grooming children. Like I feel like if I was to show my grandchildren, I'd like to show them the former, not the latter. And I'm not saying that that's not important or anything. The cultural fight isn't important at all. It's just I couldn't imagine myself like having to say, guys, I'm not like those crazy gays on that one show, and that dictating like my political descriptors or like a large portion of my time engaging with politics. You know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. Yeah. I mean, I don't view my channel as a strictly political channel. I don't mind covering drama. I don't mind doing fun things as well. But I do cover politics when it comes around. It's like a channel just for me, basically. I just kind of run it as a channel of whatever I feel like talking about.
Is that really how you run it? You just whatever you talk about. You
Yeah.
must you have a market or something that you these are the topics that'll do well. I should hit on these topics, or you don't talk about literally
Yeah.
anything you want to, do you?
I mean, I'm aware of it, but I don't. I guess I don't care that much. I mean, well, okay, here. I'll tell you how much I don't care. All right. In the past 2 weeks, I've lost 2,000 subs for critiquing Trump during the Trump Biden debate. All right.
You lost
I'm
two
I am
subs,
2,000.
2,000.
Yes.
Try okay. For some people, it's all performance. If you were legitimate, you know what we should do? We should
Hmm?
make two versions of the debate, and one is just
Okay.
Biden clips back to back to back, and one is just Trump clips back to back to back. Because I feel like if people were to really just sit there and like you watch Biden's clips, all the same problems with performance will still be there. But write Trump, you take out a piece of paper, you just write down the things he says. The dude was lying every minute and 20 and every 30 seconds. And I refuse to
Yep.
say that anyone performed well in any conversation if underpinning every single topic is a foundation that's flawed completely, either because it's dipped slightly in mistruth or completely just a lie. And that was every single topic he engaged in. And sometimes it was to a point that it was just baffling to me. I remember when he was talking about Ukraine, and like there was a lot of the typical lies or whatever, like, oh, the Europeans aren't paying as much of us, they're paying much more, and stuff like that. One thing that threw me for a loop was when he said, there's so many people have died in this horrible war. And at this point, he was pinning Joe Biden for the war. And so he had to make the war look worse for some reason, even though it's the largest war in Europe since World War II. So he says, more people are dying than they're saying. It's actually three times larger, the death toll, than what they're saying. So he's just randomly saying that the actual death toll in Ukraine is three times the reported numbers for no other reason than just to make the war look worse while he's trying to make it Joe Biden's war. These are like lies that are completely unnecessary to make his point. The war is already brutal enough, but he needs to make the catastrophe much bigger just for political. This is not good argumentation. It's only good argumentation if you just don't notice the lies.
Yep. I mean, I can't disagree with any of that, man. My issue personally, and the reason why I lost the 2,000 subs, is because I'll sit down with people who are more right wing than me, and we will completely agree on things like weird puritanical leftoids who want to take boobs out of video games. or they're ruining Star Wars with a bunch of woke shit. All right, like I can have that conversation and we'll pretty much agree. But people think that means that I'm pro-Trump, or that I support like the political positions of someone who is hard right. I'm not using hard right as a slur, just as like a descriptor of the position, right? And I
Yeah,
don't.
I'll do it for
I
you
simply
though.
don't. Okay, go ahead. But like I just don't, right? Like, it's 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 very strange because I guess they thought that because I thought I don't know, I thought people were being weird about the Stellar Blade video game and how it had a really hot chick and she flipped around and it was all objectifying, and me being, a guy who likes hot chicks, I was like, "Yes, that's great." And then I would laugh at the weird
Burns is
lefties who were
a
saying, like, oh, like
immoral,
the feminists or
morally
whatever, who were like,
corrupt,
"Well,
bankrupt man.
this is objectifying, it's bad. Male gamers," like, and I laughed at those people. They thought that meant that I support Trump. And it's like those are two very different things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that people kind of like sign up for tribes, and people do it very early on, where you have like one character trait or two character traits, like you believe one thing or two things in a party, and therefore immediately start adopting all of the other beliefs. And this isn't just done in like niche political issues. You see it with political parties all the time. For example, I'm pretty pro-gun as a Democrat. I was listening to Joe Biden speak at the NAACP today because watching his speeches it's kind of like the same high I get out of engaging in degenerate gambling, where you're kind of just waiting, just like hoping for success, and you're like always at the edge of your seat, just hoping he doesn't like fuck it up and that he gets to the end of it without calling Trump like the King of England or some shit. And he did really well. He did really good at the NAACP speech. But during the speech, he called for like the banning of AR-15s in reaction to the assassination attempt, because the guy tried to kill Trump using AR-15, and I openly was like, I don't like that at all. And as a Democrat, like if I was participating in party politics in the state of Maryland, that would be a position that'd probably be very difficult for me to uphold, both like interpersonally and just like within the party. Because like if you're part of the party, you've kind of signed up to all these other things as well. You've kind of signed up to all these other positions. And on the internet, it's if you've signed up to think like, oh, the feminists are too crazy about the video games, and I certainly don't really care about this issue anymore. Maybe I cared about it when I was like 17 or 18 for a little bit.
Mhm.
But if you believe that, then therefore you need to like Trump, because Trump wrecks the feminists, and therefore you have to agree with his position on abortion. You need to agree with his position on and you kind of, I don't know, sign up for the whole like slate of values, and you'll get like social pressure in these groups if you don't as well, and economic
Oh yeah, yeah.
and economic consequences. People will like drop off Patreon. People will drop off subbing to you, etc.
Oh, I'm feeling it. I know.
My God, I remember. I think one of the biggest. I remember. I think it was like when Riley Grace Rochon got into scandal with someone else over kink at Pride a while ago. And
I recall this. Yeah.
it's something I can't barely remember all the details. But Riley Grace Rochon does a lot of great work in the state of Maryland on LGBT issues. I was on the board of a LGBT group, one of the doing activism in the state of Maryland, and I knew she was doing work with the Westmore campaign, and I knew she was doing Which One and helped flip our governorship from red to blue, and which I was really excited about. She's doing all this great work, and the idea of people like trying to like take her and like throw her off of her job or the work she was doing here because of the internet bullshit, like threw me for a loop. It threw me for an absolute loop at the time. I forget
That was
exactly.
the Doe debate, right?
That
It
was the
Doe
Doe. Yeah,
debate.
it was the Doe debate. I
Yeah,
forget how I was gonna loop
the
this
fucking
in.
deer person. I remember seeing that and like losing my mind at how ridiculous that whole thing was.
It was bad. At the time though, like my position merely was that I think that she should not lose her job because she's doing good work, and she proceeded to do good work. She helped pass like legislation that helped protect LGBT people in Maryland. Like, so I think I was at least right on the fact that she should keep doing work. But I think that was probably the one where I got the most backlash, where I lost the most subs. That and the other big scandal. But that outside of the other big scandal, that was the other one, definitely.
What was the other big one? Do I know this one?
Yeah, you know the one, the Prime Kai one.
Oh right, yes, yes I do. Yes, I
Yes.
do. Man, that's bringing back some memories. Man.
It's been
Old
a very
drama,
long
dude.
time. I feel like
Yeah.
a very different person.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so because I sometimes talk about cultural issues because I do care about things like that, and I've been on more cultural oriented shows like EFAP for example, and we'll talk about movies or something or video games or internet drama.
By the way,
I've spoken
chat, I
with
just want
Chud
you guys
Logic.
to know, I just saw the
Oh,
ads, the automatic ads thing coming up on YouTube, and I hit skip. That's because I love you all.
oh.
Because I'm benevolent. Okay, sorry, continue.
Just press that button like 80 times. That's what you should do.
Don't get
But
don't get
anyway,
don't get ridiculous.
but anyway, like I've done kind of the culture war stuff because sometimes it's just fun. It's fun to do. I enjoy it. Sometimes it's fun to talk about a video game or something. However, and usually though, I kind of take up a more libertarian position on those topics. And over the years that definitely attracted me a more right wing audience. Which by the way, I'm fine. Anyone can watch me. I'm okay with that. The issue is that when I start to critique Trump when election time comes around, people get very, very angry. And I have to remind them, hey, listen, I've been telling you guys I've been a liberal this whole time. Like, did you think I was dog whistling? Like what the fuck? I'm a liberal. I've said it. Every video I say it. I'm a liberal. What do you guys think I mean here? You know what I mean? Um. Also, I do just generally think that COVID broke people's brains.
It did.
Like being, yeah, yeah. Um. So for example, a great example of that is after the Trump shooting, the assassination attempt.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of right-leaning people say that Democrats have ratcheted up the inflammatory rhetoric and they've
Can I
helped
can I
radicalize
can I
this
just
guy.
say, oh my fucking
Sure.
god, what a hawk of bullshit. Every time I listen to this, I just can't believe people are trying to tell me this shit with a straight face. Like all and the people who are main complaining about it are also the people who are calling the Democrats fascists. Donald Trump Jr., who's complaining about calling Trump a fascist, calling him a Nazi. Oh, this type of stuff is ratcheting up the rhetoric too much. You go check out his history. He's called the Biden administration fascist. He's called them Nazis. The type of rhetoric that Trump was throwing out there is the type of rhetoric that we will no longer have a country if Biden wins. If Biden wins, America will die. America will die. America will die. This is the type of rhetoric of the Trump campaign. It was setting the stake. You couldn't have set the stakes any higher. And then like you could say that people on the left participated in the back and forth ping ponging of the rhetoric up the escalation ladder. That you can say. But anybody trying to point to the left and saying, woe is me, this is the Democrats' fault, when Donald Trump was up there like openly mocking Paul Pelosi's near assassination, was calling the attempted kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer fake at CPAC literally 2 weeks ago. No, I just don't buy it.
Here, I dug up one of the examples that I've seen floating around. If you want to pull that up, but yeah, so this guy is saying that he says how shooters are made, and there's a bunch of Biden tweets, and they've got like Donald Trump is the greatest threat to our democracy, he's a genuine threat to the nation. If we lose democracy, we'll lose everything if Trump gets elected. Like, and I'm looking at this stuff, and it's like, okay, fair enough. These are definitely inflammatory. I get your point, but it's not like the Republicans are innocent, because they're very clearly not. I've heard people like talking about the fucking Civil War and how they're prepping for it and how they can't wait for 4 fucking years now. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, we've heard this type of stuff like constantly. And some of it's even from elected Republicans. We could see some of the rhetoric getting like really out of hand. And I mean, I don't want to like pick on like the usual clowns, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, like the fringe freaks, the clown brigade. But the thing that gets me though is there has to be a distinction made here, because I do not want the reaction from this to be, oh my god, let's all just stop critique. Because I remember the New York Times article came out like I think it was 48 hours after Trump got shot. It was an article about all the things that make him authoritarian, and it was critiquing him, and it was basically saying this man cannot be president, like for X, Y, and Z reasons. And there was so much outrage, so much hatred directed at that New York Times piece, saying this is not the time and or place. You can't do it. And in my mind, Donald Trump is trying to become the most powerful person on the planet. Getting shot does not mean now he doesn't get oversight when trying to attempt to make that job transition, where he's going to have control of the nuclear weapons. He's going to have control of federal bureaucracy, where he's talking about doing wide purges of federal bureaucrats, nonpartisan bureaucrats, trying to replace them with his own. We know the type of plan he wants to do when he gets into office. He wants to grab the whole establishment by the horns and turn it towards his own ends. And so if that is what he wants to do, and he's openly saying, like, if, when I lose, overturn the election results. If I lose, it's rigged. If I lose, overturn the Constitution to put me in power. We can't ignore these things out of just respect for bringing down the tempo of rhetoric. We should do everything possible to make sure we don't ask for actionable violent things. We don't do anything that could encourage violence, but that can't be done by unemphasizing the seriousness of the real threat that Donald Trump poses to our institutions. So it's a balancing act we need to find.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Um, you're 23 or 24?
23.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm in my 30s. I'm a bit older than you. I think this has basically been happening since Bush, right? George Bush gets elected. I would have been in. I think by the end of his term, I was going off to university, I think. But yeah, so with George Bush, there was like you saw pictures of this guy like being framed as Hitler, right? There was I remember seeing protests back then where they've like photoshopped him as Hitler and they're marching around calling him a Nazi, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, yeah, okay, he's a conservative. Like, this is nuts, right? And then I saw the same thing happen with Obama. You saw the same thing happen with Obama, and I saw it happen with Trump.
It happened with Joe Biden too.
There,
Marjorie Taylor Greene has called him Hitler multiple times.
Yep. So there has been this rising escalation that's going back as far as I can remember. Hitlerification. There's basically like you have one side that will escalate, probably because they're butthurt about losing an election or something, and then the other side will retaliate in turn, and then they'll also escalate, and then it goes back and forth. And no one, if you go back far enough, no one's truly innocent here. You can blame Republicans and Democrats for doing stuff. However, we've now hit a point where you can't actually distinguish between what is a justified and unjustified escalation, right? Because if you believe that Trump is innocent of all the things that he's been accused of, then everything that's been happening to him is completely unjust. And you have far left radicals who are going wild, who are shitting themselves. They're trying to kill the man. Like it's insane, right? However, if Trump is not innocent of all the things that he's accused of, and he actually is going to dismantle significant parts of the executive branch or whatever it is he plans to do when he gets into power again.
This isn't like a question of like, is Trump like, oh, let's find out the secret Trump plan. And because Trump is very open with what he wants to do. Trump is very open, like he wants to take control he wants to get rid of all of the nonpartisan bureaucrats. He wants to replace them with loyalists. He wants to quote unquote take on the deep state. He wants to loosen the libel law. Like, he's very open about this. This isn't like a secret plan. So Trump makes it easy. Trump does make it easy.
Yep. So then the question becomes like, well, is it the case that Trump is actually this dictator in waiting and we have to do everything we can to stop him? Because if you're saying that, well, then you probably are promoting some sort of level of political violence, but it might actually be justified if he actually is that evil. And I mean, Americans, you guys are known for your political violence. That's how you started your country, right? So it's not like it's somehow taboo to talk about. But also, if the rhetoric is unwarranted, then things have just gone insane because now you're just attacking people for being the opposition. And it does seem like both sides kind of live in two different realities where their beliefs are leading them to see two different worlds, where one of them is where Trump is innocent and one of them is where Trump is guilty, and then all the actions that flow from both those positions are logical. It's just that they don't live in the same world.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a separate reality, it's going to be very difficult for you to find agreement with someone or find some you need a basis of reality to work on together in order to like find progress and find compromise on these issues. It's like, for example, when like the deal was made with Senator Lankford, I didn't actually like the deal very much. I didn't like the deal because I felt like Democrats didn't get enough when it came to the Dreamers. I think the Dreamers should not be in limbo any longer. I think they should know the future of their lives, so they're not going to be told at the age of 37, having never lived in Honduras, that they're going to have to go there and speak a language they never spoke, even though they're more American than apple pie. Like, I was surprised that considering how many concessions the Democrats were willing to give on this immigration deal, many of them too, like answering to direct concerns Republicans have been bringing up not only recently, but for decades, and then to see it all shut down purely for political partisan reasons, and then have people just openly lie and say, well, actually, the reason why is because this deal said you could still have 2,000 people cross the border a day. No, it didn't. It just said if it got that bad, then you would shut down the entire border system. It didn't allow anybody to cross the border legally. It didn't do that at all. It was just a complete lie. But if you believed it, if you believed that Biden was saying, well, actually, 2,000 people can cross illegally, and then we'll start enforcing the law. If you believe that mistruth, then of course, everything you grow out of that, saying that this is a bad foundation for fixing our immigration policy, is going to make sense. But it's Trump. I think one of the biggest risks of Trump is just he is gospel. The way he's talked about is gospel. And the way I interact with that was mostly in the war in Ukraine. Republicans were polled about their number one respected sources when it came to the war in Ukraine. On the ground journalists rate, I think, had 39% saying that they trusted them as a source. Trump was at 79% above every other single source for valuable information on the war in Ukraine. He knows nothing about the war. He knows next to nothing. He's said things about the war that isn't true when it comes to the death toll. He's said mistruths. He's misunderstood the war open. He's certainly not a top source, but his word is gospel, and he's a good talker. And that's the thing that really gets me about this recent wave. And even though I probably disagree with how Destiny's talking in his rhetoric, there is one thing that gets me is that
Yeah.
man, Donald Trump, people loved him because of the way he spoke. So people acting like they don't know where this rhetoric came from all of a sudden and political divisiveness, when they specifically chose him in part because he was so divisive, because he quote unquote wrecked the liberals, that particularly gets on my nerves.
Yeah. The fact that he's funny, he was on reality TV, he's a face people know. He's been around for a long time. A lot of it is just star power with Trump. And then the star power kind of morphed into, a more devoted, almost like cult of personality around him, which is pretty crazy. Like I'm sure the non-Trump parts of the GOP are just like, I don't know. Even if they're even still there, they're probably just like watching everything unfurl around them.
They're
like,
neutered. They're completely neutered.
Yeah.
They're not even really a faction anymore. They're more like a museum piece. They're a player in politics the same way the king of Saudi Arabia is. He's just wheeled around as kind of, hey, look, it's the old king again. Oh, look, it's the old ones, the old guard, Mr. Neocon over there.
Yep. Like, here's the thing. In my country's elections, I'll be voting conservative for sure, because I don't like the way that things have gone under the liberals. If I were an American, I'd be voting Democrat. I don't even got to think about it. Like Trump has completely destroyed the GOP, and it's not good that he has. So.
And the thing that gets me about like if there is a craziness in the Democratic Party, a craziness in the left, those factions, like when you talk about being too left, and there's not much, but if let's say that there is, and I think that they do exist somewhere, those factions are getting currently curb stomped in primary races. Jamal Bowman got yeeted out. There's a good chance that Cori Bush is going to get yeeted out. Like, if you're talking about, like, if you're a moderate and you care about having a moderate administration, those factions are actively getting, like, they're fighting for their survival. There's not like Joe Biden's going to win re-election and he's going to pick the American equivalent of Chairman Mao to head the NLRB.
Yeah, right. I mean, they're very loud online. In fact, there's actually a lot of them online, but they don't vote. They're all doom-pilled on voting. They say, well, voting is, you're just voting in a bourgeois democracy. It's not actually real. You can't change anything. You should be building, you should be building mutual aid and all this bullshit. It's like, okay, dude, all right. That's why nothing happens, because none of you fucking vote. And by the way, I'm happy you don't, because I hate the far left.
So my computer's about to die. I think you probably want to head out, but can you preoccupy my audience while I plug it into the generator? Because we currently have power outages in Kiev, blackouts.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Well,
I appreciate it.
Sure thing. Hello, Dylan's audience. How's it going? Keep in mind, there's going to be a chat delay, so I can't exactly respond to anything you guys are saying. I see some of my chatters have shown up. I see some of my guys who are more right-wing than me have shown up. That's probably going to be a shit show to see you guys fighting in the chat. And we hate you, you truck. Why do you hate me? Is it because I'm a liberal but I'm not a progressive? Is that how it is? Oh God, yeah, I've seen like a bunch of you guys, and there'd be like, not a bunch of you guys, but some of you guys have said, some of you guys in the chat have been like, Dev, he thinks he's a liberal? No, I can't believe he thinks. It's like, no, I actually am. I'm just not ridiculous. I'm not very far left. All right, I like capitalism. I like private property rights. Okay, I'm not like anti-tax, though I do think maybe they should be a little bit lower. You know, but no, I am a bog standard liberal. Just yeah. Here's the thing, um, I do I have been in Dylan's site chat before. However, ever since the White Nervosa thing, I probably should not go back because I know that I did basically a manifesto on White Nervosa. I don't think she's a very good person, and the fact that she runs centrally all of these sites, maybe I should not. Maybe I should not be in any site chat that she happens to be running, frankly, because I know she fucking hates me. But yeah, like I'm definitely. You guys are social democrats here. I know that's true, but I've also talked to Sepsin before, and I think they're some flavor of communist. Yeah, a liberal who plans to vote for the Conservative Party candidate. Yes, I will here in my own country. It's because I am a liberal conservative, and I described what that philosophy means a little bit earlier in the stream. There are definitely some conservative. There are some conservative viewpoints that I hold, but I generally think that they're good. I mean, obviously that's why I hold them, right? Pierre Poilievre is the David Cameron of Canada. He doesn't have policies. His main policy is looking to fix things. That's not true. I've seen what he's been saying. I don't think that's true at all.
I am back. Sorry for
Right,
keeping you so long.
libertarian socialist. Oh, no problem. Do you want me to take off now, or?
No, I enjoy talking to you, and it seems that most of my viewers, even if they don't like you, they enjoy me talking to you enough to watch. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss? We can also schedule something for a different time if you wanted to research anything or for me to prepare for anything. If you wanted to talk about anything else particular.
It was like I said at the start. My life's kind of up in the air at the moment. We could probably we could figure something out. Sure. I guess. Yeah, there's definitely some people in the chat who don't like me, but that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, one guy said, "You said you wanted to keep liberalism as tradition around. That's it. That means nothing." Well, no. Okay. Here's what I mean. Right. There are some things. This is more of a philosophy conversation than a policy conversation. So, for example, um, you look at like a guy like Edmund Burke, who's considered like a classical conservative, and he said very famously in the Reflections on the Revolution in France, he said, "Each man's private stock of reason is small," and what he meant by that was the idea that despite progressives of his era and also future eras, the progressives are very much like they're reformists, right? They want to change things, they want to make things better, and there's some good things that comes out of that. But his view is basically that humans are stupid and small and weak and fragile, and really there's only so much thinking you can do throughout the course of your life, and so you're not actually nearly as reasonable as you think. None of us are, which we all know to be true at this point now with psychology stuff. So this idea that you should be ideologically aligned with progress and changing everything for the better, they can lead you down some really dark roads where you fall into some pitfalls because you're not being rational, and no one can truly be rational, not all the time. So when he says each man's private stock of reason is small, what he's basically saying is, for large portions of life, we've already got it figured out. Don't overthink it, because you save your brain, because you only have a limited number of thoughts you can think between when you're born and when you die. So save your brain power for the important stuff. You can't intuit yourself into a nuclear program, but you can intuit yourself on how to get a girlfriend and get married and have some kids. So my basic life philosophy is governments should be liberal, people should be conservative, because there's a lot of good stuff on the local level that comes out of conservatism, like being a decent family person, being having some kids, raising them right, being a pillar of your community. That's all good conservative stuff. And it seems like the word conservative, especially in the American context nowadays, means insanity, which is not what I'm all about.
Chat. Also, the reverse on what he just said is that if you save your thoughts, you can live longer. So don't think
Oh, is
until
that
you're
how it
very
works?
old.
You can just hold on to him, eh?
Yeah, hold on to them. It's a cheat.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, the whole Chesterton's fence. You know that idea?
No, I do not.
Okay. So G.K. Chesterton, he's also a classical conservative. He said, "Do not destroy a fence before you know why it was put up." That's the basic idea. It was a much longer quote than that. That's the basic idea. And his view basically was you have progressive people who value change for change's sake, and they come along and they see something that previous humans have built, and these are smart humans. You know, they might be old, they might be from several hundred years ago, but they're still just as smart as you are. And they built something, and they built it for a reason because they're also intelligent. And if you think, well, that's an old thing, let's just destroy it. We'll build something new, and then you destroy it, and then the fence was actually holding back something that should have been held back, and then you're
Oh,
overrun by farm animals or
I've heard
something, right?
different variations of this before.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So you know what's going on. Yeah, yeah. So this is like a fundamentally conservative idea. It's a warning against change for change's sake, and I don't think you can get that out of progressive thought, but you can get it out of conservative thought. So this is why I definitely have some conservative leanings in my personalities because I think there's some good stuff in there, at least on the personal level. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, like, I respect the idea that there are certain things that have been held up by our forefathers that are of value to preserve, freedom of expression, certain rights that we have, institutions that we've strengthened and improved over time that starting from scratch would be a disastrous idea, or getting rid of
Hmm.
those institutions altogether would be a disastrous idea. Like I mean, some of the things that I think scare. I mean, when people talk about Project 2025, right? The stuff that scares me the most is the stuff getting rid of these environmental institutions that took so much legislative effort to put in place in the first place to give the federal government some ability to protect our natural wildlands or forests or lakes or trees and stuff. And that's the stuff that really scares me because that is quite literally undoing generations of work of people who are not even here anymore to warn people not to do it and or do that work again, and we're just going to have to start from scratch, quite literally wasting their legacy. That type of stuff does concern me quite a lot.
Yep. Same. Same. I know one guy in the chat said change for change's sake is not what progressives are doing. I've seen some progressives who do that. I have definitely seen. And also, to be fair, these guys were writing in a previous era where there was probably a lot more radical progressives running around than there are now. You know.
A
Um.
lot more of the terrorism in the 70s was actually lefty than it is today.
Yep.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, that's like a philosophical conversation that some people in the chat in the chat asked about. SFO's conservative philosophy speaks in platitudes rather than actual policy goals. Well, yeah, it actually does. It actually does, right? That's why I said people should be conservative, government should be liberal, because I generally align with most liberal policy, but I generally think that conservatives have good ideas on how you should live your personal life. You know what I mean?
I
You know, I know Dylan, you disagree with me on this, but I think it's generally good not to be too promiscuous. For example, it's probably good for you, good for people around
I
you,
never said it
stuff
was
like that.
not good to not be a whore. I never said that.
But also, it's also I think that a lot of this is a language game though too, because when I see the MAGA people in the States, I don't see conservatives. I know you guys call them conservatives, but from a philosophical point of view, I don't see like a conservative faction there. I don't think there are conservatives in the United States anymore. You have like the occasional constitutional conservative like counterpoints or something, but they seem to largely have been just routed from the political discussion in America right now.
So all the people that used to claim to be conservatives that have now joined up with the Trump movement, what would you call them now? Would you say they've abandoned their conservative credentials?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, 100%. I mean, we could just call them MAGA if you want. Like some of them are going to be non-ideological.
So would
Some
you
of them
say
will be like
someone like Dennis
libertarians. Some of them will be
Prager is no
ANCAPs.
longer like a traditional conservative? If they've signed off with Trump, they can no longer really claim that credential?
I think so. Maybe there's like a small exemption for like neocons who just are trying to survive and have a career, maybe post Trump or something. But like, no, the philosophy of Trump does not seem to align with being a conservative. Like there's no fucking way you have this guy who's out here like banging porn stars and paying them off. This guy's a conservative. No fucking way.
So let me
There's
ask you.
there's no family values in that.
Let
There's no
me
fucking family values in that.
let me help you dig your hole a little deeper, and then we can wrap up this conversation. Because I am supposed to watch.
Let's do it.
I haven't watched this Destiny debate yet. I'm supposed to watch it. I haven't watched any of it.
Oh, sorry for taking your time.
No. I like talking to you. Do you believe Trump is a threat to democracy itself?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So it isn't hyperbolic to say that, you don't think?
Eastman memo. I know all about it.
Ha-
To be honest,
Mhm.
not to be a hipster about it or anything, but I knew about the Eastman shit before like your circle, like Destiny and like his orbiters got into it. You know,
Before it was cool.
before it was cool, man. Before it was cool.
Before it was cool.
The main reason, like, to be honest, like in 2018, 2019, I was pretty neutral on Trump. I thought the memes were funny. Didn't really care too much. I was living in Canada. Didn't really affect me. After 2020, so I was on a live stream with Sargon and my other right wing friends.
Yeah.
We were on the live stream. We were all streaming it together, watching the votes come in, and we all of us had the same moment and the same feeling when there was a moment in the middle of the night when all the polling stopped, and we're all waiting for them. Like updates were coming every 5 minutes, and they stopped for like half an hour to an hour, and we're sitting there like, what happened, guys? And then suddenly, like those mysterious 4 a.m. 100% Biden ballot drops started coming in.
Yeah.
And everyone
worked real hard on
including me,
those. I had
so,
so many different types of pens. I had to study different types of handwriting. It was a tough night.
So I was sitting there with these guys, and we all had the same feeling. It's like, oh, are they actually rigging it? Like, look at all, like, what the fuck? Why is this happening? Now, of course, we later learned, or no, well, they didn't learn, I did, but we later learned that they weren't rigging it, and there's explanations for why these things happened the way that they did. But in the moment, it didn't feel like it, right?
What's
And
crazy
we were
is,
all
like,
like losing.
I hate to interrupt you, but like there
Sure.
was warnings before the election of this. There was people saying in advance, because Democrats are leveraging so much in mail-in voting, because Democrats are more likely to be scared of voting in person because of the pandemic. Because the Democratic leadership is encouraging people to do mail-in voting while Trump was actively attacking it. Plus, they're being less concerned about the vid, the jab, whatever you want to call it, to not get demonetized. That it was going to lead to a way big overrepresentation of Democrats in mail-in voting, and that in the middle of the night when the mail-in votes come, that's going to have a swing. And people were talking about that the whole night, the casters, everyone. So it wasn't like a secret. It was just something people didn't know about, but it was political knowledge beforehand. So it's not like a secret plot or anything.
That, and also the fact that in some of these states, it was Republicans who changed the rules that made it so they couldn't count the mail-in votes until after all the other votes were counted, all the in-person votes, because they were afraid of them being fraudulent. So don't count them right away. Hold them all in a place. That place ended up being in a case underneath the table, and they were all real. They were all real ballots. They weren't fucking faked. But you know what I mean, though, right? Like, there's a lot of things that explain this. But what ended up happening is the night of, everyone felt really worried, like democracy was being stolen. I felt the same way too. And then over the next few days, I paid attention, and I was like, okay, well, where are these audits going to go? Where are these recounts going to go? Where are these court cases going to go? Over the next few days, next few weeks, I paid attention to the story, and I was like, oh, okay, it turns out that actually there's reasonable explanations for all of this. There is no election fraud here. Everything's actually fine. However, everyone else that I was in the call with, they all lost their minds. They simply remembered how they felt on the night of, and frankly, what they didn't know, and how that made them feel. And it's been the same way ever since then. 4 years later, they can still recall the way that they felt on that night.
Are you saying that like Sargon and the rest of them have lost their minds on this?
On this topic, yeah, and we've had many debates in private on it. But I've been like I've even gone to him like, did you ever follow up on any of those cases? And he's like, well, not really. I saw some headlines on Twitter. It's like, yeah, but did you read any of the court documents? Did you like anything? And the answer is almost always no. And we've had some very long debate on stream and off. We've had debates on this thing. But there was a moment where I was in a stream with a former friend of mine who ended up being a white nationalist. She was quite mask on when I knew her. So and it never feels good when it turns
One
out that
second.
your friends are.
I need to do this for like my
Oh,
audience mostly, not for
oh,
me.
okay.
Friends with fascists.
Oh.
Got him again.
No, I had some right wing friends, and they ended up being much more right wing than I thought, and they kind of went mask off during COVID. So I was like, okay, all right. So I stopped talking to them. But I was on a stream with some of them, and we were looking at that there's that one video. Was it Illinois or whatever, where they have the alternate elector guys at the door, and the cop won't let them in. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, there's so many videos like this where, like, like over 24 hours of like going through files, something on screen without context of someone on the ground gets misconstrued, then re-misconstrued over and over and over again until it's this 72-year-old election worker who doesn't even know how to operate a computer has somehow masterminded the stealing of the vote in like Georgia.
So I was sitting in the call with these people, and they were saying like, look, they won't let the electors in. We got to start getting our guns and like start fighting. I was like, you guys are crazy. You guys got to calm down. And then I explained to them, listen, the procedure is Trump still has some court cases open. So you have alternate electors, same way they did it in 1960 with Hawaii. You have these alternate electors. The state will sign off on them if the court case goes through. And then they were like, I calmed them down. They're like, okay, we shouldn't boogaloo just yet. Okay, so they calmed down a bit. So I was looking into this, like, and then as soon as January 6th happens, and I was watching January 6th, I was like, holy shit. So none of those court cases went through. None of those electors ended up being real. And this is just the attempt to actually subvert democracy. And so it was that moment where I was like, okay, I I stopped talking about Trump. I realized like, okay, I need to, if I'm gonna like make a video on this, I should probably get my ducks in order, get all the evidence. And I mean, then I realized there actually wasn't much evidence at the time. We got it later with the January 6th committee. So, but yeah, this is one of those things that I was following the day of, and it's one of the main
Honestly, I
reasons
kind of
why I
I
ended up.
think like
Oh,
there's a
go
lot
ahead.
of
Yeah.
reasons why none of these stories ended up being like the final nail in the coffin for Trump. If we would have had all the information we had now, like in the weeks following January 6th,
Hmm.
like I feel like that one instant could have been political destruction for the Trump legacy. But the problem is like I think a lot of this gets done out over a very long period of time, slowly dribbled out, so it's never like a big news story. It's like a subheadline of a subheadline. And when you don't have like the full
Exactly. Yes.
picture, it doesn't make the best case. And by the time you have the full case, it's old news. And the narratives that Trump delivers, like Russia hoax or like impeachment hoax, et cetera, these narratives are already well set in by the time the case is properly built. It's the same. For example,
Yeah.
another example of this
Yeah.
happening was like right after the shooting happened, a bunch of people, including even Bill Maher, came out to say Democrat shooter, liberal shooter, left wing shooter before we had knew anything. And Biden comes out and says we don't know the ideology of a shooter, and it's like oh my god, I can't believe he wouldn't immediately claim the shooter as one of his own disciples. And so when some other information came out, like oh maybe he's a Republican, it looks like he's a registered Republican. Oh, it looks like some of his friends from high school described him as conservatives. Oh, but he also donated to this progressive pack. So, that's confusing. At best, he's politically ambiguous. But you need to get the narratives out early because it's those early feelings, those first feelings you feel about an event, like you talked about earlier, that are most important. It's the same problem with like the Twitter added context feature. By like 3 or 4 days into the time, like a tweet has been shared around that told everybody like Putin saved all the Ukrainian children or something. By the time they added the added context, like 95% of the people have already seen it. I love the feature as a concept, but it's the question of like speed of implementation.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. It is that first impression that everyone feels, and the problem is that you can't get like nuanced facts out in a first impression. Not usually. It's always just like, oh, the video clip goes viral of, it on some, I don't know, anti-white watch or something, and where it's like, 5 black people kicking the shit out of white people, and that clip, that 30-second video goes viral, and then everyone's like, oh my god, the great replacement is happening. Oh, there's a race war in the United States, and of course it's not actually happening, right? Like you could have a horrendous clip of violence, like racial violence in the United States, go viral every single day, a new one, and it's still not going to constitute a race war because there's just so many people in America, right? But
Absolutely.
it's I don't know if there's a formal name for this, but I call it the spotlight effect, where it's just whatever you happen to see on your feed is what you think the whole world is, and it never actually is that.
Yes. The best example of this, man, I need to start throwing better left wing examples out. But a great example of this, I remind of, it was Matt Walsh when he was on the Joe Rogan show. I don't know if you've seen this, but this show of him on Joe Rogan, like saying like, Joe Rogan's like, man, how many kids have like gone through transitions?
Oh, the millions?
And he's
Yeah.
like, oh, the
I can
millions,
see it.
millions of transitioning kids, just millions of.
Oh.
There's conveyor belts. There's conveyor belts. It's crazy, and he just finds out it's a couple thousand, and it really shows just the amount of weight he placed upon the amount of time he spends focusing on this issue is just completely disproportionate in the amount of impact it actually has on the vast majority of Americans. Like even if he succeeded, what will he have succeeded in doing? Like stopping like a couple thousand kids, maybe at max like 10 to 20 to 30,000 kids from transit. It's fucking wild.
Yeah, I did see that clip, and it was fucking insane, dude. I mean, here's the thing. You don't have time to do the trans conversation tonight. I know. I don't even necessarily like. I don't think I'm pro under 18s being given that stuff. I understand the argument. It's an argument from care and treatment. I get it, but I think I don't know how I feel about it. But like, there's such a moral panic surrounding trans people right now that's ridiculous.
Yes.
Because there's such a like I get it. There are weirdo like 6'6" balding dudes who have giant beards and they're in a dress and they want to walk into the girls' change room. Got it. That shit's strange. Call the cops, okay? But and trenders exist. You can't deny it. I know people think that that's transphobic, but they exist and they're part of the problem.
The thing is, like these people exist. Right, trenders.
Yeah.
I don't even know how I'm gonna approach the balding fucking beard person, but the trenders exist. These people exist, or people like. But I would call it people. Even like people do go through phases. Like there are people who, but that's most of these are young people discovering themselves, trying to figure out who they are.
Yep.
They're going through an age of discovery, and then they find these like nice communities online. And if in these cases that they're not really, and they're just discovering themselves and they're confused and they're figuring out who they are, that's perfectly fine. They'll grow out of it. They'll keep going on with their life and everything will be fine. And like, that's why, like in these cases, when we're talking about the amount of social media influence there is online, like the amount of these people who do like, oh, maybe I am, and then just go on and move on, most of them are not going through with surgery. They find out through just discovering themselves in their life that, oh, it's actually not for them for XYZ reason. Definitely when it's so expensive, it can have some demonstrably negative health effects. I don't want to get into like the details, but problems with leakage and other issues.
Yeah, I know what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it just for me, the amount of moral panic is it's a demonization campaign. It's these are the enemy, these are the demons. That's the type of, and that's for what Matt Walsh and those types of people proliferate in. You can have like a responsible conversation of like, hey, when should surgery become available? When they become 18, when they come of age, when can puberty blockers and these types of services become available? This seems like something that there's going to be more of a gray room for people under the age of 18, under doctor supervision, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, but that's not the conversation that wants to be had by Matt Walsh. It's not a conversation about facts and figures on what's best for these kids. A lot of it's moral grandstanding, which I think is a lot of it. It's we are better than X, Y, and Z. And this is where the demonization comes in. And a lot of it is just, I mean, to be frank, it is making them out to be a gigantic threat when they're not nearly as big of a threat as they are. I mean, when we say threat, I don't even want to talk to them in the idea of a threat. They're not a threat, but they need a threat, and they are the threat.
Yeah,
to that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, like I've heard some pretty harrowing stories from like detransitioners who say that like they were they were like pushed into things when they shouldn't have been when they were like 14 or 15. Like that shouldn't be happening, obviously. But I mean, most trans people are like your Blair Whites, your Taftages, your Buck Angels. You know, they're not like some weird fucking gender goblin. They just pass and then they do their own thing and they live a normal life.
Also, can I just be like,
hey, what's up?
Taftage is a center right person that respects themselves, right?
Yes.
I just want to say that clearly. Blair White is a right-wing person that I have zero respect for because it doesn't seem like they even have respect for themselves. You've seen the talk that you know that I'm even thinking about when I say this. You've seen the conversation where she was
Oh, the
with
grow
that
your beard out.
yeah, grow your beard out.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Republican candidate who ran for senator in Delaware, Lauren Witzitsky or whatever the fuck her name is, that terrible witch. My God, what a witch. She, like, the horrible things that she would say to her, and she just stood there and took it. She just took it again and again and again. There's no self-respect there. That is, I am willing to get on my hands and knees and walk around like a dog for the movement. Please just tell me I'm allowed to be here. That's what it felt like watching.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
Uh,
and I think I agree with you on that one, because it was like I said, the passers just want to get on with their lives, right? They just want to be as normal as possible, and they don't want to do any weird shit, and that's what most of them are. And you know what? I think that's probably what a lot of gay people are too. Is that they don't actually want. I know you hate when I do this, Dylan. They don't actually want to go to the 50-man piss guzzling monkeypox orgies. They just want to be normal. You know, most people just want to be normal.
I love my monkeypox orgies.
Oh man. Well, I should probably let you go, and you should probably watch that thing you were gonna watch.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yes,
it was the Destiny debate, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't watched it on stream. I haven't reviewed it at all, but I heard it gets pretty spicy, and then he ends up debating Elon. And I watched a little bit of the Elon talk, and dude, just needs to fucking stick to his rockets, man. He has such a shallow understanding of everything else. And did you hear he's gonna give tens of millions of dollars to pro-Trump PACs after saying he wasn't gonna put any money in this election?
I think a lot of people's minds changed after the shooting. I've seen a lot of people who were on the fence are now going Trump. This is why I think the Biden's going to lose. By the way, I think Trump's now a martyr. He's going to get those normie center votes.
I don't know if he's gonna get the normie center vote. I wouldn't put Elon in the normie center crowd. He was hanging out with David Sachs.
Well, no, but you know what I mean, though. Yeah.
But I think that if there was somebody who was on the fence, they could be pushed over to Trump. But I don't think that anybody was convinced that Trump is the guy who was in the center, who was like not who he had a negative view of Trump, which is what the majority of Americans have, who have now been changed. Now they have a positive view of Trump, especially like. And I also don't think Trump is going to be able to keep that favor because immediately after getting shot, there's these calls for unity. Trump agrees tepidly, and then immediately says unity would be dropping the case in Georgia and the case and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Immediately turning the shooting into you need to make it so I can't be criminally prosecuted if we're really all about unity. He can't just stand there and take the
Oh my
W.
God.
He has to grab it
Occurred
and turn
is
it into
occurred.
something.
Ghost of
man,
Mr.
okay, the
Machno has
fact that he
donated
didn't even
$5. This guy
dispute
sounds a
any
lot
of
more
the Eastman
moderate than he
shit,
was in
and he just said, "Give me
2016 when he
immunity."
made
That's my
Rubin
defense.
Sargent's
Holy
clear
fuck.
arguments.
Give me a second.
Also Canadian,
what's up?
so opinion discarded.
Sorry, Ghost of Nestor Machno just donated $5. It's a reference to you. This guy sounds a lot more moderate than he was in 2016 when he made the Rubin Sargon tier arguments. Also Canadian, so opinion discarded.
What was I doing in 2016?
I don't know. Apparently
I mean-
Hitlering around.
I mean, so I've been on the internet since 2009, but I did like anime reviews when I was younger, which is why my channel's named Short Fat Otaku. I didn't get into politics till Gamergate in 2014. What did I do in 20? What was I doing in 2016, man?
I don't know. I was 15, so I was probably playing Gary's mod.
I mean, I think a lot of people, because I have right wing friends, and I have a lot of friends who are more right wing than me. I think a lot of people just kind of let me in with them. I know, like, Vosh has called me a Nazi a few times because I'm friends with Sargon. And it's like, okay, dude, like, fuck you. But I mean, like, I recently, people on the right have been telling me that I've been betraying my principles. And I dug up a fucking, I can even send it to you. I dug up a clip from 2017 where I basically said at one point, Trump is going to do something so heinous, and it's not going to be any of this petty bullshit like you know the whole piss dossier where he's like pissing on hookers in Moscow, or the grab him by the pussy nonsense. Like, this is all just, you know, character attacks. Trump's going to actually do something serious, and no one's going to believe you when you report on it. This is a critique of journalists, because you've all lost your mind now that Trump's
I've
won
made
in
I actually
2016.
made a similar critique. It wasn't of the same. Basically, like, because we're talking about the fucking piss dossier, because we're talking about all this fucking bullshit, and we're blowing it up. If like Trump, like the problem is if we just go, this is a problem twofold. One, of the media for blowing the tiny shit out of proportion, but two, just in Trump, because Trump is so scandal prone, and if you even report on the scandals just tepidly, just like talking about scandal after scandal after scandal, it will wear anyone out. Like if we go through 7 scandals and we talk about like the Trump assassin scandal, and it's a scandal of Trump hiring an assassin, like if he's gone through a million other scandals, even no matter how big that bombshell is, it just doesn't feel as big. For example, if we found out that Kamala Harris tried to usurp the authority of the office of vice president to keep Biden in power if Trump won, that feels like it would be an absolutely gigantic scandal. But because that was one scandal amongst many, it kind of almost morphed into the like opaque, just scandal image of Trump. Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely, I completely agree. But I guess my point is that back in this is a video I put out in early 2017. I wasn't pro Trump then. You know, I am to be fair, I am generally more critical of the left than I am of the right. That's true, and I think that's probably where my reputation comes from. But the
now
reason
you're
for
feeling now you're feeling the repercussions of that. You're feeling it.
Well, yes, I am. But the reason for it though is because the left is harder to critique than the right is. Generally, I'm speaking in very general terms here, and so you have to be a lot more careful and a lot more in depth. Generally, also because the left's intellectualism is more developed than the right's is. You know, if I want to sit here and tell you why racism is bad, it's pretty easy. If I want to sit here and tell you why Marx was wrong about something, it takes a long time. You know what I mean? So I tend to spend more time critiquing the left, but it's because the left has more complicated ideas, very generally speaking.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry for taking all your time.
No,
it was fun
it's
to talk to
fine.
you
It was
again.
nice talking to you too. If we can talk again sometime in the future, if you want to touch base on anything else.
For
Just
sure.
once you
for
get
sure.
your life in order and you stop, I don't know, selling weapons, whatever regime you're selling weapons to, whatever you're doing.
Listen, I know that there's been some people in your chat who haven't liked me, but it's okay. I like you guys. It's we can disagree and still like each other. Okay.
Hear that, chat? Don't shoot his ear off, okay? Leave him be.
But yeah, let's. I'll make sure not to spend another year before we actually talk on stream again. I know we've talked in private, but you know what I mean. I'll be back soon. Okay.
Yeah, no worries. And I should be releasing like documentaries really soon, like big ones, big projects I've been working on for like 4 or 5 months. So it
Awesome.
gives me a
Awesome. I'll check
reason
them
to
out.
talk to anybody.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see you later, man.
Awesome. You have a good one. Bye bye.